entered the boiler room. Carl's making some noise. Let's see if we can get him on the mic here in just a minute. Thanks, Josh. That was Anti-Tyranny News y'all were listening to just before my big-ass voice came on the air. But this, for the next 60 minutes, is going to be Boiler Room Radio here on UCY.TV. Live radio for the next 60 minutes with me and my cohort, Lance Musser. Lance Musser, come in.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening. Carl's out there making some noise, man. Right as the music started playing, he was cock-a-doodle doing. I'm hoping to get at least one.
On the critter mic, yeah.
Come on, Carl. Tell it like it is, man. Yeah. All right, we'll keep rolling. Maybe we'll get him in the background. How's things out your way, Mr. Lance Musser? My brother from another mother.
Weather was perfect today.
You know, I've been hot as hell here, dude. The humidity's just been. I went through 2 shirts today.
Yeah, we haven't here yet. So, you know, where I'm living at right now, I'm only a mile from the ocean, basically. So
and you get kind of a cool breeze off the water.
Oh man, it's in the evening. You just open up the back door and the back windows, and the sun's going down in the front, and there's nothing but cool breeze coming in the back. So
it's a real salty smelling, man. I mean, yeah. Oh, nice. But your cars don't last for shit.
Yeah, a little bit, but you know, we don't have any salt on the road from snow either. Well, we did this year, but normally we don't.
No, but even with it carrying in the atmosphere, I noticed that down in Texas, you know, when I lived in Houston or around Houston, you know, I lived just a little ways north of there, but I worked in Houston towing cars and stuff, and most all of them were rusted out hunks of shit unless they were brand new. You know what I mean? If it was more than 5 years old, it had holes in it. So
yeah, true statement. I mean, there's
and the undercarriages really got bad.
They do. They get rusty. Mufflers get rusty. Pipes, etc. Hazard of living by the sea.
Yep.
That's just that little one. Yeah, there's bigger ones, I'm sure. Coming.
All right. What's happening on Wall Street? I didn't get any video from Bambino, so maybe he's off at the bar again, whatever.
He's celebrating.
Banked.
Yeah, he's celebrating. It went back up to 16,600.
Holy shnikes.
The S&P was up, NASDAQ was up, and the bonds were up. So
that's unusual. That's not supposed to be.
For everything to be going up into a holiday weekend, I think is unprecedented.
That means people are cashing in on your ass.
Yeah, I mean cashing in. And there's actually one of my stories. I only have 2 tonight because one of them's just a little bit longer than I normally do.
Okay.
But it dug into that Belgium deal on buying bonds and stuff. Oh. So it's more pumping going on into the economy, and it'll go on for a little bit while longer till Putin and China have their way with us. Remember we were talking about, and I brought up the question of diamonds. Why don't we give, you know, as much value on... Is Carl going?
No, I'm trying to get him. Sorry. Keep going.
But, you know, diamonds, and I asked you, I was like, you know, why don't we use diamonds a whole lot more like gold and silver, and you see them trading and whatnot. So the diamond miners in Zimbabwe are told to sell their gems to the central bank as collateral for Chinese loans.
Oh.
The exploitation of Africa by bigger, stronger, and wealthier nations is nothing new.
I'm going to have to buy some Hooked on Phonics.
Yeah, right. In contemporary times, it appears China has been making a particularly aggressive move considering its huge economy, enormous population, and insufficient natural resources. While this topic has not been a focal point on the site, I've covered it in the past. In the article below, and this came from Bloomberg, we learned that diamond miners in the country have been told they must sell their gems through the central bank to serve as collateral for government loans. The country's deputy mines had said earlier that in May that Zimbabwe may use mineral exports, including gold and diamonds, to underwrite loans from China. In a letter to miners, the secretary, and I can't pronounce his name, instructs that producers prepare parcels of all your currently produced diamonds, which must be sorted and evaluated with the involvement of the Minerals Marketing Corp of Zimbabwe, a state company, and payment will be made soon after. The stones will be kept by the central bank and used to securitize a government loan, he said in the letter.
I'm sorry. Let me just jump in real quick.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, the Zimbabwe Minerals and Mining's whatever, DDD, blah, 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 was started by De Beers and then taken over by the government.
Yeah, I remember reading that one time.
Okay. I just wanted to throw that in there. It was Big Corp. Anyway, go ahead.
The letter obtained by Bloomberg was sent to miners on April 28th and came effective April 30th. Zimbabwe is expected to mine 16.9 million carats of diamonds this year.
Holy.
Last year, the country produced 8 million carats worth $685 million. So they're supposedly doubling their output this year.
You know, that's a big ass volcano they're digging in, right? Prehistoric volcano. Those kimberlite holes, that's what they were. They were lava tubes at one time. The diamonds were there.
Murandazi Machacha, I probably said that wrong.
Nice name.
A director at Anjin declined to comment and said his company is still to be paid the $5 million it's owed after a gem sale in Dubai run by the Zimbabwean government. The last paragraph is particularly interesting because it appears that the Zimbabwean government may have no intention of actually compensating the miners properly for their product. You can't put anything past the government, which the Christian Science Monitor recently reported created a fake flood so that the President Robert could relocate 20,000 people and force them to work as cheap laborers since all their stuff was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting because, you know, I was just talking about diamonds with you a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're going to be using it to securitize loans.
See, they all listen to our show.
Mm-hmm. Am I, hold on, let me take a drink.
You need to get your ass better, brother. You got golf to play.
I know. I'm still sick, still weak. I've just been kind of laying around
sick,
all day.
you're just lame. Don't call yourself sick. I mean, you know, use the positive mental attitude thingy that we talk about all the time.
Yeah, right. I just got an infection.
That's right. You're on the road to recovery.
I hope so. U.S. stocks have enjoyed unprecedented cash protection due to a steady infusion of fiat money from the Federal Reserve known as quantitative easing.
No.
With the advent of the taper, QE is now swiftly coming to a close and is slated to end by this fall, if not sooner. And I can't remember if this is
what a bunch of shit.
The article, but I'm going to go off just in a tangent on the QE.
Go ahead.
I was reading today that the collapse, if it were to happen now, while the government is doing quantitative easing and making everything so much better, that they would be blamed for it. So this guy is theorizing that quantitative easing will end at the end of this year, but you're going to see these shell companies like the one I'm getting ready to tell you about, you know, backing it up still. So that way the government can say, hey, unemployment's where it needs to be. This is where it needs to be. The housing market's solid. But quantitative easing is over.
But we've already caught them cooking the books. So we know that the taper was bullshit. They're just moving the money around and putting it in different locations.
But if it hasn't been on mainstream media, the masses just don't know that.
I'll have to email CNN tonight when we're done with the show.
So if it were to crash, let's say next year, after the quantitative easing is done, the government can't say, hey, we didn't have any part. This is all natural takeover. Just the flow of things at that point.
Until 30 years goes by and we can get it with a FOIA request, right?
Yeah, right.
Right.
The U.S. is in desperate need of a benefactor to purchase its ever-rising debt and keep the system running.
We need some freedom, too. We need some freedom.
I saw a pipeline running through Syria that needs some freedom.
Oh, shit. Here we go. Oh, boy. Okay, keep going with your story. We'll get.
But strangely, that's fine. A buyer with apparently bottomless pockets has arrived to pick up the slack, and the Fed and the BRICS are leaving behind. But who is this buyer? At first glance, it appears to be the tiny nation of Belgium. Remember we talked about this the other night.
Oh, yeah. How the Fed's using them as a front.
But then it was outed of, hey, wait a minute. People started asking questions.
Where do you get all that money?
Country, yeah, where you
get all that money,
everything else. So here's what happened. While foreign investment in the U.S. has sharply declined since March, Belgium has quickly become the third largest buyer of treasury bonds, just behind China and Japan, purchasing more than $200 billion in securities in the past 5 months alone.
Which is like 4 times their gross domestic product or something.
Correct. Right. Adding to a total stash of around $340 billion. So that's all that they've done.
Wow.
This development is rather bewildering, primarily because Belgium's GDP as of 2012 was a minuscule $483 billion, meaning Belgium has spent nearly the entirety of its yearly GDP on our debt alone. Clearly, this is impossible.
We must be a good investment.
And someone somewhere is using Belgium as a proxy in order to prop up the U.S. But who?
George Soros?
Recently, a company based in Belgium called Euroclear has come forward claiming to be the culprit behind the massive purchases of American debt. Euroclear, though, is not a direct buyer. Instead, the bank is a facilitator, using what it calls a collateral highway to allow central banks and international banks to move vast amounts of securities around the world faster than ever before. Euroclear claims to be an administrator for more than $24 trillion in worldwide assets and transactions. But these transactions are not initiated by the company itself. Euroclear is a middleman used by our secret buyer to quickly move U.S. treasuries into various accounts without ever being identified. So the question remains, who is the true buyer? You got any comments on that?
I just Googled the company and dropped the link in chat. I'm looking as we speak, so keep rambling. I'll find something.
My investigation into Euroclear found some interesting facts. Euroclear has financial relationships with more than 90% of the world's central banks and was once partly owned and run by 120 of the largest financial institutions back when it was called the Euroclear system. The organization was consolidated and operated by none other than J.P. Morgan Bank.
Oh my goodness!
In 2000, Euroclear was officially incorporated and became its own entity. However, one must remember, once a J.P. Morgan Bank, always a J.P. Morgan Bank.
A Federal Reserve bitch.
It's like being a Marine. Another interesting fact, Euroclear has a strong relationship with the Russian government and is a primary broker for Russian debt to foreign investors.
Wow, it was founded in 1968.
Yeah. This once again proves my ongoing point that Russia is tied to the global banking cabal as much as the United States. The East versus West paradigm is a sham at the highest order. Euroclear's ties to the banking elite are obvious. However, we are still no closer to discovering the specific groups or institution responsible for buying up the U.S. debt. I think that the use of Euroclear in Belgium may be a key in understanding this mystery. Belgium is the political center of the EU, with more politicians, diplomats, and lobbyists than Washington, D.C. It is also, despite its size and economic weakness, a member of an exclusive economic club called the Group of 10, the G10. Mm-hmm. It should be noted that the Bank of International Settlements is also the overseer of the G10. So if you want to learn more about the darker nature of globalist groups like the IMF and the Bank of International Settlements,
and the Troika,
there's plenty of articles out there for them. It is my belief that Belgium, as a member of G10, is being used as a proxy by the Bank of International Settlements and the IMF to purchase U.S. debt, but at a high price. I believe the banking elite are hiding behind their middlemen. Euroclear, the middleman Euroclear, because they do not want their purchases of treasuries revealed too soon. I believe that the IMF in particular is accumulating U.S. debt to be used later as leverage to absorb the dollar and finalize the rise of the new currency, their SDR currency basket as the world reserve standard. So there's a little bit more on it, but I'm going to stop reading it there because it's going back to a Rothschild, JP Morgan, one of six families controlling everything.
Here's a little bit from Wiki, our favorite Wiki. In addition to its role as International Central Securities Depository, or ICSD, Euroclear also acts as the Central Securities Depository, the CSD, for Belgian, Dutch, Finnish, French, Irish, Swedish, and UK securities. Euroclear also owns EMXCO, the UK's leading provider of investment fund order routing. So it owns the routing machines that make the transactions on Wall Street. Cronyism. We own the people that 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 own you. Kind of like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Evil bastards. It's as old as I am. It was born in 1968, and so was I.
Yeah, and how many times have you ever heard this name?
Never.
I hadn't until today.
Never.
So until I started digging into the Belgian thing, because it was curious, okay, we already know it's not Belgium. So who is it?
I heard of another name on Max Kaiser a couple of weeks back. Maybe it wasn't even a week back, a couple of shows back. And for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of that bank. And it's a bank that's huge over in the city of London. It's not anywhere else, but in the city of London. And,
well, it's just like the Vatican.
It's an enormous, it moves an enormous amount of money in and out of its doors. And
right.
I've never heard of that name before. And I'm going to have to dig back and see if I can find it again, and maybe we'll do a little half hour on it.
Yeah, I'll do that. The article does point at the Chinese yuan, is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
Being the next currency. But again, they think it's all a secret buyout, and as soon as they hold enough treasuries, they're gonna.
But let me ask you this. Do you really think that they want to go with a particular country's currency as the next world currency or global currency or whatever? Or do you think they want to make their own? I think they want to make their own.
It would make sense to make their own.
I think they'll bring the yuan out onto the world market huge to make the dollar go away for a while. And then they'll all of a sudden say, hey, let's take all these different currencies from all these different countries and we'll put them in one basket and we'll have a basket currency like central drawing rights. They were talking about that, the CDRs for a while, or whatever. Some kind of centralized currency.
Well,
like the New World Order version of Bitcoin or something.
Well, when you get your RFID chip that the Pope says encourages now.
Right.
I think that would be all the banking. You can use that to pay for everything.
There you go. Yeah, we'll just have to scan our foreheads.
Or the right hand.
I want mine in my forehead. I want one in my hand and in my forehead. That way I'm double covered like you said. So long as the Pope's back. And what the hell, right?
That's right.
Let's get two just to be safe.
I want two of them. Yeah.
In case one of them takes a poopy. Because when they first roll them out, they got glitches and all that kind of crap, so you're going to have problems, right? The thing's going to short circuit and, fry your balls off or whatever.
Increase your odds of it working. Get to.
Right, yeah, exactly. So y'all done reading and stuff?
Yeah, I am.
Because all we got's the hyper report, unless you want to throw in one of the other, I don't know. We'll see what Scott's got to say, and then we'll go from there. How about that?
Okay. I do have some other articles that aren't finance related, so.
Okay.
Hello, this is Scott, and this is a Hyper Report. Today's report is sponsored by the free book Ramblings of a Madman. Here are the quotes for various items. First, Chinese banks. Chinese banks have halted dollar transactions with most Afghan commercial banks, thus making it difficult for businesses to pay for imports with one of Afghanistan's biggest trading partners. The reason is that Chinese banks are suddenly concerned about money laundering. Yeah, right. Next, all sold. George Soros, known for rigging markets, sold all of his shares of Citibank, Bank of America, and JP Morgan and bought tech and gold miner shares. In February 2009, Soros said the world financial system had effectively disintegrated. It may not be too long before the other shoe drops, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Next, debt proxy. At first glance, it appears to be Belgium that is massively buying treasuries. However, one look at the country's GDP and that theory falls apart. Belgium appears to be the proxy of the Bank of International Settlements and the IMF to purchase U.S. debt, but at a high price. Just imagine what kind of concessions America would have to make to a global loan shark like the IMF. Next, 27 red flags for the U.S. economy. Here are a few. 1. Despite the so-called economic recovery, the number one concern for voters is unemployment. 2. Foot traffic at Walmart stores fell by 1.4% during the first quarter of 2014. 3. The labor force participation rate for Americans from ages 25 to 29 has fallen to an all-time record low. Next, NSA vote. In a 303 to 121 vote, the House of Representatives voted on a bill that would end the NSA's bulk data collection. 51 Republicans and 70 Democrats voted against the measure and for the continued police state. The bill will go to the Senate where it will likely die a quick death, even though officials at the White House publicly state they support the bill. Next, vaccine dangers. Without going into detail of the article, here are 2 presented facts. 1. 61% of all human tumors during autopsies contain the SV40 monkey virus that is traceable to the polio vaccine of the 1950s and 60s. 2. Weaponized mycoplasma and vaccination programs cause disease by apparently interfering with people's DNA. Next, lies, lies, lies. Obama said that the Inspector General for the VA did not see a link between veterans' deaths and delays in care at VA hospitals. So the VA's internal review links between the deaths of 23 veterans and wait times at the VA and Phoenix alone does not exist? Obama, what happened? Usually it took days or weeks before people knew you were telling another whopper. Finally, please prepare now for the escalating economic and social unrest. Good day.
I agree with what Scott said Wednesday, actually, in his hyper report on that day. Any country that cannot financially take care of its veterans should not financially engage in war.
Yeah, and the problem's been going on. Obama says he didn't know.
Bullshit.
But as John Stewart pointed out, as John Stewart pointed out last night, when Obama took office in 2008, he was handed a briefing by Bush's administration.
Clinton knew.
Laying out how bad the delays already were.
Bush Sr. knew.
Yeah, so.
Come on.
Clinton, they didn't have the problems until the Gulf War.
We didn't
until
hear
Bush,
about the problems.
We didn't, they weren't as...
There were homeless veterans back then. There have been homeless veterans since they came back from Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
So, don't get me going on that one.
Oh yeah, but to the level that the people are dying now, I mean, there are a lot of, Iraqi war, Gulf War veterans.
True.
And on the George Soros thing, that was, big news
story.
There was big news last week. George Soros dumped all of his stakes in banks and went for tech and gold miners in the first quarter, like he said there. Thursday, which was last Thursday, Soros sold his holdings in Citigroup, JP Morgan, and Bank of America.
JP Morgan.
He took new stakes in RF Micro Devices, Nuance Communications.
Because we're getting ready to get chipped.
Marvel, Technology Group, Nokia Corp, and Cypress Semiconductor. Soros also boosted his stake in Herbalife.
Oh my God.
And took a new position in Yamana Gold and AU Rico Gold and New Gold Inc. CDA. So those are all of his new holdings now.
CDA. CDA.
Don't know what it means. I don't know if it's Canada or newgoldinc.cda.
That's a Canadian company.
Could be. The other one is Gold Rico, so that'd be maybe gold out of Rico. And then Yamana sounds Mexican.
Yep. He's interested in tech and gold.
Yep, interesting.
You should do some Googling, people. It's worth a Google. Anyway, carrying on with a little bit from what Scott had. This is from shtfplan.com. This is the continuation of the 27 huge red flags for the U.S. economy. I know we've done a lot of these before, but we're going to do another one. Number 1, despite the endless assurances from Obama administration that we are in an economic recovery, the number one concern for U.S. voters is unemployment and jobs, according to a recent Gallup survey. Number 2, historically, sales for construction equipment manufacturer Caterpillar have been a pretty good indicator of where the global economy is headed next. Unfortunately, sales were down 13% last month and have now experienced year-over-year declines for 17 months in a row.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big one. Number 3, during the first quarter of 2014, profits at office supply giant Staples fell 43.5%. They are also closing a bunch of stores. Number 4, foot traffic at Walmart, this is one he went into, fell by 1.4% during the first quarter. I think you talked about this Wednesday.
We've been talking about Walmart, yeah.
Analysts seem puzzled as to why Walmart is underperforming. Perhaps it's because the U.S. middle class is being steadily destroyed and U.S. consumers are tapped out. Number 5, it is being projected that Sears will soon close hundreds more stores and will eventually go out of business altogether. This is a quote from Retail Apocalypse, I think, or something like that. The company said this week that it may sell 51% stake in Sears Canada, which operates nearly 20% of the company's stores worldwide. It has quietly closed nearly 100 U.S. stores in the last year. Next week is expected to announce dismal financial first quarter results and possibly yet more store closings. They have too many stores and they are losing a lot of money, burning cash, said John Kernan, an analyst with Cowen. Kernan expects, Cowen, I don't know. Do you know who they are, Cowen?
Nope.
Kernan expects company to close 500 units out of 1,980 in a few years and ultimately go out of business altogether. The lights are going off at Sears and Kmart, he said. There are tumbleweeds blowing through the parking lots at Kmart. They are basically irrelevant. That's pretty sad. Kmart used to be a huge company in the United States.
Yeah, but they sold cheap stuff, and Walmart,
but still,
sold more cheaper stuff.
I'm just saying, Sears, man, that's a big one. That's a big one, right? I mean, that's as big as GM going under. That's as big as.
I think the Sears that are making it are moving to the model of like the city centers, where it's outdoor shopping.
They tried to do the Brand Central thing a while back, and it tanked like a, anyway.
I'll tell you what, that stuff's popping up around here everywhere. Yeah. And we've got retail everywhere popping up. And that's the Sears and stuff are, those anchors, JCPenney's, those are the ones that seem to be doing better because malls have just closed all over the country.
Okay. Number 6, the labor force participation rate for Americans from age 25 to 29 has fallen to an all-time record low. It does not give a number, but it says an all-time record low. Number 7, according to official government numbers, everyone is unemployed in 20% of all American families.
Huh?
According to official government numbers, everyone is unemployed in 20% of all American families.
Oh.
So 1 in 5 households, no one works. Number 8, as families struggle to pay their bills, many of them are increasingly turning to debt in order to make ends meet. Earlier this month, we learned that a total U.S. household debt has increased for 3 quarters in a row. And as I noted in one recent article, total consumer credit in the United States has increased by 22% over the past 3 years, and 56% of all Americans have subprime credit right now. 56%.
I believe that.
Number 9. That's so scary, man. Number 9. Interest rates on student loans are scheduled to increase substantially on July 1st. Here is the quote. As of July 1st, federal student loan rates will edge up. Rates overall will be up 0.8% compared to current rates. Federal Stafford loans for undergraduate students will be 4.66, up from 3.86. Federal Stafford loans for graduate students will be 6.21, up from 5.41. Federal Grad Plus and Federal Parent Plus loans will be at 7.21%, up from 6.4.
And I can tell you,
they want
student loan deferrals that we see on applications for mortgages. Mm-hmm. I would say 80% of the people are not paying student loans, that they're in deferment or forbearances, financial hardship things. Mm-hmm. And it's just accruing interest every single month.
Yep. Number 10, U.S. industrial production fell by 0.6% in April. This should not be happening if the economy was truly recovering. Duh. Number 11, manufacturing job openings in the United States have declined for 4 months in a row. As if they were anything 4 months ago. Number 12, existing home sales have fallen for 7 of the last 8 months and seem to be repeating a pattern that we witnessed back in 2007, prior to the last financial crash. A la Lance Musser. For the last
I actually have a stat on some of that housing stuff too.
Number 13, in the real estate bubble market of Phoenix, sales in April were down 12% year over year, and active inventory was up 49% year over year. In other words, there are tons of homes on the market, but sales are going down. Number 14, home ownership rates in the United States have dropped to the lowest level in 19 years. Almost a generation.
Yep, and the government's to blame for that.
Yes, they are. The government's to blame for everything. Number 15, trading revenue at big banks all over the Western world is way down. Quote, last Friday it was J.P. Morgan who said trading revenues will be down 20% this quarter. Now Barclays says trading revenues in the first 3 months were down 41%. The company cited challenging trading conditions resulting in subdued client activity. Like J.P. Morgan, Barclays also warned that they were seeing no improvement in trading in the second quarter.
It was the weather.
Yeah, it was the weather. It's too hot, cold. Cold, hot,
cold.
I mean.
It was cold, yeah.
Cold, hot, hot, cold, hot. Number 16, Jan Loyes, J.P. Morgan's head of global asset allocation, is warning that the Federal Reserve is creating a huge financial bubble which could push us into a credit crisis. That's J.P. Morgan saying that, people. George Soros just dumped all their shit. Number 17, Peter Boockvar, the chief market analyst at Lindsay Group, is warning that the U.S. stock market could experience a 20% decline once quantitative easing completely ends. Didn't you just say that? Mm-hmm. Right. Number 18. I'm telling you, these people listen to our show.
I said the 20. I've been saying the 20% since last November. Yeah, that when it corrects, it's got to correct
over 20%.
Down to 12,000.
Number 18. A lot of other big names are telling it CNBC, non-biased crap, that they expect a significant stock market correction very soon. Quote, a bevy of high-profile names have warned lately that the market is on the doorstep of a major move lower. From long-term market bulls such as Piper Jaffray, as short-term traders such as Dennis Gartman, expectations are high that the major averages are poised for a big dip, with calls varying from 10 to 25%.
You want to see something funny? Go Google the CNBC interviews where these people come out and speak the truth like this.
And they get cut off.
Man, it catches these the host off guard and they start making jokes and feeling all awkward. It's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. And they cut the commercial quite
often. Then they cut the commercial. Yep.
Number 19, the number of Americans enrolled in the Social Security disability program exceeds the entire population of the nation of Greece and has just hit another brand new record high. And that is a link I think I might click so that we can find out how many people are sponging off the government.
Well, I don't believe that all of Social Security disability
I'm just
is sponging.
I know.
There's a lot of worthy people.
Okay, but it's 10,996,447 people.
Probably half of them shouldn't be on it.
Mm-hmm. 10 million, almost 11 million people on Social Security disability benefits.
On the government's teat.
Yep. Number 20, poverty continues to grow all over the country. And right now, there are 49 million Americans that are dealing with food insecurity, which means, and by the term food insecurity, that means that you don't have 3 days worth of food in your house. That's food insecurity. That's pretty insecure. Number 21, according to Pew Charitable's Trust, tax revenue in 26 U.S. states is still lower than it was back in 2008. Even though tax rates have gone up in many areas since then. Because when you don't have a job, you don't file taxes. Number 22, Barack Obama is doing his best to keep his promise to destroy the U.S. coal industry. Quote, the EPA is about to impose new regulations that will reduce carbon emissions from existing power plants starting June 2nd and will become permanent in 2015. The new regulations, according to Politico, is the most dramatic anti-pollution regulation in a generation because the new regulations will further cripple the coal industry as coal-burning plants will be severely affected. American power will become more dependent on natural gas, solar, and wind. Have you heard them talking up solar and wind? No. Number 23. Climatologists are now saying that the state of Texas is going through the worst period of drought that it has experienced in 500 years.
California ain't no better.
Number 24. It's being reported that dozens of Texas communities are less than 30 days away from being completely out of water. Number 25. It is being projected that the drought in California will cost the agricultural industry $1.7 billion. And that approximately 14,500 agricultural workers will lose their jobs this year.
It's going to mean higher prices for if there's less food, supply and demand.
Buy from your farmers markets. Number 26. Due in part to the drought, the price of meat rose the fastest pace in more than 10 years last month.
Yep.
It's very, very expensive to buy a pound of hamburger. Go check.
It's almost $5 a pound. At some places.
It's over 5 here. It's 5.06.
Yeah. I remember when it was 99 cents a pound.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. According to recent surveys, only about a quarter, this is number 27, this is the last one. According to recent surveys, only about a quarter of all Americans believe that the country is heading in the right direction. 25% of you people are effing idiots. If this is a real number. 25% of you people have your heads so far up your asses you can't see daylight.
Wait a minute, read the stat again.
According to recent surveys, about 1/4 of all Americans believe that this country is heading in the right direction.
Oh yeah, they need their heads examined.
Quote, Michael T. Snyder is a graduate of the University of Florida Law School and has worked as an attorney in the heart of Washington, D.C. for a number of years. Today, Michael is best known for his work as the publisher of the Economic Collapse blog and the American Dream. If you want to know what things in America are going to look like in a few years, read his new book, The Beginning of the End. That's where all these stats were taken from, people. These are stats. These are not postulations. Lance loves that word.
Yep, I do. But, just like the guy pointed out with the quantitative easing stopping, I think we've got till next year. So, at least till next year.
I think we have until June.
No, I mean, if not a financial thing, maybe something else before then, Yellowstone or EMP or something, but the quantitative easing, the QE has to go away so the government doesn't take the blame. Because it can't fail while they're propping it up.
Yeah. I want to jump back on this Chinese thing for just a split second. Because this story that he led off with on the Hyper Report was kind of, I mean, he only dipped into it for just 2 seconds. So it didn't really give it the kind of oomph that it really needed.
Yeah, that's why he always puts links.
Yeah, true. China halts U.S. dollar transactions with Afghan bank. Now, I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to what's going on in Afghanistan, but the release from Snowden yesterday, today, whenever the hell dropped, was that Afghan was the country that the NSA was listening to every single electronic transaction, electronic communication going on in that country. Phone calls, texts, emails, you name it. Everything that happened in that country, the NSA, CIA, FBI knew it, and they had a recording of it. And they've been doing it for years and years and years. Okay? So that's why China's freaking out about what's going on in Afghanistan. The de-dollarization escalates. As Reuters reports, Chinese banks have halted dollar transactions with most Afghan commercial banks. Whether this is related to the terrorist operations in the Muslim-dominated Uyghur region is unclear. Also unclear is whether the Chinese banks will accept transactions with Afghan banks in CNY. I don't know what CNY is. The de-dollarization or anti-terrorist action, the official story is as follows. The Chinese move was part of the trend in which was increasingly difficult for Afghanistan's commercial banks to execute international transactions. Some of our banks cannot do any direct transactions because their corresponding banks in the U.S., Europe, Germany, or Turkey have halted transactions, he said. Now even transferring money to China to import goods has been affected. The Afghan government's failure to pass key measures means that it could be, in June, backlisted by Financial Action Task Force, an international body that sets standards on how countries combat money laundering. Banks have been struggling since FATF threatened Afghanistan with the blacklist earlier this year. That's been affecting our bank's ability to transfer money for anything, Delaware said, describing how students abroad were unable to receive money from their parents as an example. Chinese banks and officials were not immediately available for comment. Because apparently now, even the Chinese banks are suddenly very concerned about money laundering compliance. In the meantime, Afghanistan meet gold. So what they're saying is that if Afghanistan wants to do any transactions with anybody in the world, which China is their number one trade partner, they're going to have to start buying gold and transacting in gold, not dollars. De-dollarization.
Yep. Death of the petrodollar.
Death of the dollar.
Yep. Petrodollars will die first.
Well, true, but I'm just saying
the downfall of the dollar.
Right. World trade is not liking the dollar, man, because the Fed is printing entirely too many of them. 85 billion a month. 85 billion a month.
Look at what their other countries are buying and selling their oil in, because
gold.
That's the world currency. That's, the world currency is traded in that. And
right. But since they don't have the yuan or the Russian ruble, I mean, you can trade Russian ruble so long as you're one of the bloc nations over there. That's how they pay all their, like the Ukraine, they were going to pay theirs off in rubles. Their gas debt to Putin, right? But if you're trying to trade world market, there's no other currency except in that world basket except the dollar, but gold.
Right.
Well, everybody takes gold. Everybody will buy gold.
Government that was put in.
Right. Okay, that's the end of that story. So go, you got one too, yeah?
Well, and it kind of follows up on that. Russia's National Commerce Bank, Crimea's biggest lender, has begun issuing cards on the basis of a Pro 100 payment system developed by Russia's biggest financial institution, Sberbank. So the Crimean banks chose the Pro 100 payment system amid the urgent situation with card payments on the peninsula and needed to take quick action. Russian National Commercial Bank isn't a member of international payment systems like Visa and MasterCard, while the other two can neither service their existing cards nor issue new ones. So basically all of Crimea is going under a Russian payment card system.
Mm-hmm. Like a chip?
I'm
just kidding.
Not a chip, but they're switching again to this Pro 100, which is a Surbank payment method, like a Visa or MasterCard, but it's not. So the absence of opportunity to pay with cards in Crimea has created massive disputes for the banks, and it's especially painful because of the coming tourism season. I can't see them getting a whole lot of tourism this year.
No, me neither.
You know, in Ukraine, Crimea, etc.
Yeah. Is that?
Yeah, that's it. So you got one more, you know, country, now their own separate country, if you will. Crimea, they broke away from Ukraine.
They're a sovereign,
right?
What do they call themselves? A sovereign state of the Russian Federation.
Right. Which is
like
what they were before.
Back in the USSR.
Khrushchev got drunk and gave them away. That's what they said. So.
Yeah. And killed a bunch of Tartars while he was out.
Yeah, in that interview I watched that we saw.
Yeah.
Oh, and to touch on that new home things.
Yeah.
The new home sales, the only place, and you've got the, the Northeast, Midwest, the South, and the West. Those are the four breakups of the map of real estate. The Midwest is the only one that's growing every month.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. People are moving away from the coast, away from the big cities, and coming out
Getting
to the
out in the
Midwest.
middle of the nowhere.
Yep, trying to.
Battling tornadoes.
Yep. So it's interesting that, you know, it's also very interesting that they count real estate transactions by a contract signing. So let's say the guy puts an offer on the house. They write a contract. It gets accepted. It gets entered into the RAIN system, which is the Real Estate Information Network.
Right.
So now it's a sale. But I can tell you from being in the business, because due to strict underwriting conditions, not everybody that writes a contract on a house gets to close on that house. Sometimes the loan gets turned down for one reason or another. That stuff comes up during underwriting. But they don't ever take any numbers out. All they do is, you know, count the contract writings, but you can't tell me that there's 100% pull through, because no company has 100% pull through. There's stuff that buyers don't disclose that come up in underwriting. Mm-hmm. So all these housing stats are skewed, unfairly, I think, when you take that into account. You see what I'm saying?
Yep, I do. They get you coming, they get you going. Right?
Well, yeah, they're only reporting the numbers going in, you know, not the cancellations. And I guess that would be just like new cars. If they sell a new car and then the people bring them back 3 days later, well, even if the dealership has a return policy, once the car's gone off the lot and been titled, it's not a new car anymore. So, yeah, the dealer has to take it back.
Value.
Right, and then the dealer has to take it back, and then they got to put it on the new car or the used car side because they screwed up and sold a car to a subprime buyer that couldn't get financed.
Whoops.
But they don't ever take those numbers out.
No. Yeah, it's all skewed, man. It's all corrupt.
Well, you've got dealerships that have minimum orders that they have to take. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they're being forced by Chrysler.
But if a car sits on that lot for more than 18 months, isn't it scrapped? I mean, they'll go to auction and they'll try to sell them as new, used, or whatever.
They call them program cars at that point.
But if they don't sell, they scrap them. I mean, they'll put the engine blocks out of them and shit like that, take the axles off and drivetrain and stuff like that, but the rest of it goes right into the chipper.
You know, I don't know, because I was in the car business for 10 years, 5 of them at a new car dealership. But I never saw a car stay on the lot 18 months. So,
yeah.
So I don't know.
It wasn't 2014 then either.
Mm-mm. No, that's true.
Okay.
No, and that was before 0% financing. Because if you think about it, nobody had ever heard of 0% financing until November of 2001. Because 9/11 decimated the car business, and they invented 0% financing 2 months after 9/11 to revitalize.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We got about 10 minutes of show left. And I usually like to try to end my shows, especially on a Friday, with a good story, a pump-me-up story. Mm-hmm. But not tonight, folks. I want to give this young lady 10 minutes of my time because she shares my last name. And I know that somewhere, somehow, we're related because there aren't too many Funkies in the United States. And this young lady was pretty close to my hometown, just a state away, 2 states away. But anyway, here we go. At just 19 years old and stunningly beautiful, straight-A chemistry student Alyssa Funke took her own life weeks after she dabbled in the seedy world of amateur porn and was mercilessly taunted for her decision. Miss Funke, who was wanted to be an anesthesiologist, decided to take part in a sex video with a stranger in Las Vegas for a website called Casting Couch X, using the name Stella Ann. Days after the sex tape of the teenager from Stillwater, Minnesota, was posted online in March, abusive messages flooded her social media accounts, many from her former schoolmates at Stillwater High. The messages ranged from gossipy and sarcastic to nasty slurs about the University of Wisconsin student. High school students had reportedly gathered around tables in the cafeteria to watch the teen's sex tapes on their cell phones, according to KSMP TV. One called Miss Funke a thought, T-H-O-T, a slang word for prostitute, adding, "Does her dad know?" Another message sniped, "Nothing brings a school together like a porn star who graduated last year." Miss Funke fought back, defending herself. She tweeted, "Porn star status and famous for days." The last message she posted on Facebook on March 4th read, "The people that envy and hate you the most stalk you on social media the most also. Hey, hi, hello, how are you doing? This one's for you." She wrote a post to her future husband and about vulnerable messages about wanting a relationship where you never feel unwanted or alone. The 19-year-old did not know the easiest of childhoods either, despite describing in her past with a shrug in her porn video interview as pretty much normal. Her biological father, Rashad Bowman, is in jail and has been since 2001 for fraud in Maricopa County, Arizona. Court records also show the young girl Alyssa tried to keep in contact with her father using audio tapes. Her mother and a boyfriend were charged with drug dealing. The family told KSMP that teenager had money worries and struggled with depression. Despite brushing off taunts from her peers, the words affected her. Family said, on April 17th, the teenager bought a shotgun, drove to Big Carnelia Lake, and killed herself on her family's boat. Her devastated family, who have been unwilling to speak publicly on her tragic death, launched the Alyssa Stop Bullying Fund, which so far has only raised $165. On the site, the family message reads, on Wednesday, April 16th, at the young age of 19, Alyssa Funke took her own life. Alyssa, like so many other teens, was a victim of bully, and sadly, the bullying led to her death. According to KSMP, Miss Funke's video remains on the website for Casting Couch X. Attempts to contact them have so far been unsuccessful. The local sheriff's office is investigating the teenager's death, but does not believe that the messages sent to Miss Funke amount to a criminal harassment. Miss Funke's story draws similarities with the Duke student Miriam Weeks, who was outed as a porn star Bella Knox earlier this year and also sat on the same couch for Casting Couch X. Miss Knox, a women's studies major, made headlines earlier this year when one of her classmates outed her secret life as a porn star to the student body. Since then, she has defended her decision to enter the adult film world on Piers Morgan, The View, and other talk shows. You know, this might be a teenager that dabbled in some porn, and that's why she was being harassed on social media. But there are so many other people that are bullied for no reason whatsoever other than they might be a little bit overweight, they got a stupid pair of glasses, they don't like their hair, they don't like the way they dress, they live on the wrong side of the tracks, you name it, right? Bullies are everywhere. A lot of bullies wear badges and carry guns in this country now, and they call themselves cops. You know, I remember a line from a movie a long, long time ago, and yeah, it was a Disney flick, but still, Thumper the Rabbit had it right. if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. There's no sense in bullying people. Keep your mouth shut. Keep your opinion to yourself. Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody cares anymore. People that stand around and laugh and ogle at all your bullying talk and shit when you get drunk and want to ramble off at the mouth or whatever, they're a bunch of assholes just like you, if you're that kind of person. Shut up. Just shut up. Anything to comment, Lance?
I've said it before. I mean, the only time you talk down to somebody is when you're helping them up.
I don't know why that story hit me so hard. I don't know if it's because she shares my name or what. I don't know. I just got, when you dropped that to me, man, I got this feeling that she was family to me somehow, some way. There aren't a whole lot of Funkies. I've been in a lot of states in this country, driving a truck and traveling around and all that kind of stuff. And I've looked in most of the phone books in the big cities that I've gone through. You don't find hardly any Funkies in this country. So I'm pretty sure somewhere we're related somehow. And it just kind of hit me.
Yeah, and I mean, she shouldn't have done it, especially if she had a future husband. I didn't remember reading that part.
Well, I think that was like her dream thing, you know, she didn't have a boyfriend or anything. She was writing to her future husband.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Okay, I understand it.
I'm actually I don't know if I did. Did I drop that link in chat? I don't think I did. I'm going to drop that link in chat. So you people can check this story out if you want to. It's out of the Daily Mail. This girl is beautiful. She had the whole world in front of her. She was a straight A student in college, for Christ's sake, you know. I don't know what pushed her into doing this porn thing. I mean, she had the background of almost every stripper I've ever heard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you don't get paid, you know, for that.
Right. This was just something that put her name out there. Right. Put her out. I mean, just dabbling in it.
Yeah.
Too much waste in this world. It's just, you know, it just makes me sick. Somebody getting bullied to death? Please, man. Please. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to end this little conversation about this young lady with this. If words hurt you, think of how weak that makes you. I understand that you can talk somebody down. And you can really, it depends on if they're a weak-minded individual, if they don't have any self-worth. Yeah, I imagine it wouldn't be too hard to talk somebody to death into killing themselves. But 10 seconds, walk away. God made all this out of nothing, right? I think he can get you through whatever you're dealing with. Love, peace, and happiness, everybody. Spend this weekend smiling, kissing each other, hugging each other, doing things that bring you memories. Lance?
Yeah, on this Memorial Day weekend, it always is a tough one for me as a veteran. Knowing what these guys are getting into. So, just live, laugh, love.
Thanks, brother. Have a good weekend, man. I hope you feel better. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. I'll be here for After the Last Cup. Turboville's replays next. Anti-Media Radio's, Primer Time or Prepper Chicks, one or the other after that. And then Anti-Media Radio. Nick Burnaby. No, tonight's Friday. It's LaVon. I gotta go send her the phones. See you, people. Peace.